I tutored people from the richest of places and the most high opportunity. I'm talking like top 1%ers down in Newport Beach kind of area, right? Like the CEO of a Fortune 500 company came into my work the first day and was like, oh, I want to enroll my kid here. That was the kind of people that were there. And then I also tutored some of the people from the most redlined of communities. Like Steph Curry has a shooting coach. He's the best shooter in the world. That was really interesting that the best shooter in the world has a shooting coach. Just think about the parallel to like math. Hey, the AI is the best math tutor in the world, but the parent might not know as much math as the tutor. Definitely help the student still. Facilitating, encouraging, being the human to human moments. I'm not a math person. There's so much baggage with it of like, oh, I had a hard time with math. And then they're called stupid for it, right? When that moment of incident occurs and it's met with a negative feedback, oftentimes that becomes deeply internalized. But when it's met with a positive feedback or a, hey, you can do it, oftentimes those moments can be restored.
Imagine that there's a parent, 7:45 p.m. at the kitchen table, the kid's crying, super frustrated. You have an opportunity to teleport there and pull the parent aside and say X. What would you tell the parent? My name is Jay, the host of the AI Math Guy podcast, and I interview AI experts to help your kids use AI to love math. So today we have an incredible guest. His name is Mark, and he is going to be sharing his knowledge, insights about what he does and how AI has impacted it and what it ultimately means for you, mothers, fathers, parents, guardians who are struggling with helping your kids with math at 8 p.m. at the kitchen table and you're frustrated and the kid's crying. And we are here to help you help your kid use AI to solve the most difficult math problems and also love math. So let's get started with a little bit of introductions with Mark.
Yeah, going way back when I was in middle school, I competed in math tournaments and math competitions. If anyone at home likes math counts, shouts out. I used to do that. I scored the highest in my middle school in its history. Let's go.
All right.
But I competed in math, and then when I went to high school, I ran a like on campus peer tutoring club. So pretty much our like big statistic was like we tutored 1,000 or 2,000 students, or we ran 2,000 tutoring sessions that year of peer-to-peer. This is free. Like a 12th grader might be helping tutor a 10th grader on coursework that they've done prior. At that same time, I started my first job at 15 working at Mathnasium, which is a math tutoring franchise. And then beyond that, I tutored just all throughout college and even into postgrad. I tutored people from the richest of places and the most high opportunity. I'm talking like top 1%ers down in Newport Beach kind of area, right? Like the CEO of a Fortune 500 company came into my work the first day and was like, oh, I want to enroll my kid here. Like that was the kind of people that were there. And then I also tutored some of the people from the most redlined of communities. So I had kids who, when I was a tutor in college, were student athletes at the college that I tutored. The college I went to had a program where we would tutor, where they had free tutoring opportunities for student athletes. So that it's kind of like a supplement so that they could maintain their coursework while also doing athletics. These kids, they just did athletics because they knew education was going to be the thing that gets them like to the next level in life. And these kids are coming from places like Compton, right? Like the really urban kind of redline communities of like downtown LA, pretty much. And so across the wealth spectrum and opportunity spectrum, I've tutored people, and I studied mathematics in college, and just on and on. There's a lot of things that, yeah, I have experience doing math tutoring and math education and so on and so forth.
Yeah. I knew that you were like to have tutored. I didn't realize that you were famous for making history in your middle school.
Yeah. That's my claim to fame.
That's awesome. I love that. And also, I didn't realize that you had experiences with redlining communities, so those urban communities, and also the CEO of the which Fortune 500 company? Are you allowed to say or no? Oh,
I
really?
don't think I should say.
Oh,
I think I'm allowed to. I just don't think I
okay.
should.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Did he say don't?
Yeah, when I worked there, we had like famous celebrities and like professional athletes who would bring their kids, and then a person got fired because they went up to the athlete and was like, "Oh, I'm a big fan."
Oh,
Because if they're bringing their kids there, there's like one of the most vulnerable kind of safe places for them, and so a lot like treating them normally is
wow.
it's
That's
good.
But you got to tell me who it is
Yeah,
after
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
podcast.
yeah,
No,
I got you.
wow, that's really cool. I mean, very glad that we actually dove into a little bit a part of this because your history with math is so important,
Yeah,
right? And especially how AI is going to impact math. I think it's crazy, right?
yeah. Oh, by the way, one
Yeah.
other thing is that my math tenure goes a long way. Even after I tutored math, I previously worked as for a couple years as a product manager, associate product manager for a curriculum provider. So people who make math curriculum for K-12 schools. I helped build those curriculum, like digital curricula as well. And so if your student at home is doing homework on a online math platform, I worked on something very akin to that as well.
I should have started with this intro.
That is before the AI boom as well. And so the difference between prior to AI and post AI in the way that we look at education and specifically math education is pretty interesting.
Sure. Man, I think I could talk more about what you're working on now versus your insights on AI and math. I think we could go both. I don't know which one would be best, but maybe I can kind of let you decide on what you think would be the best way to kind of continue the conversation forward. I guess my question is whether it's your job or your role right now as a product manager or your experience with math up to this point, extensive experience with math education. How do you see AI impacting and disrupting how I would say let's stick with math maybe. What would be what would be your take on how AI is disrupting math education and also maybe your job too, but
Sure.
maybe math education?
Yeah, I think we can stick to the math side. A lot of the insights that I'll draw from my job, I think, are applicable.
Mm.
And so they'll come for free
Mm.
in the conversation. But the way that I see AI affecting math education it's a very loaded question, I will say. I can't say, I think a lot of people like to take very polarizing opinions of, oh, this is going to be the best thing in the world for it. And then other people will say, oh, this is like destroying kids' minds, right? I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. But to tackle this question, let's go back to history, right? Let's go back to the way that one of the big arguments for AI is like the best thing for kids to be able to learn math is that kids have a infinitely patient available tutor to them in like a ChatGPT in like the platform that you all are building. The problem with that is that they had access to like knowledge prior, right? If we want to look at like a lot of people like to say like even beyond math that AI is like going to be the thing that makes it so that people learn at majorly accelerated rates. It's true that it could, but the knowledge was always there. Back in the day, we had MOOCs, which were massively online. Massive? I forget exactly what the thing is for, but it's open coursework. It's pretty much publicly available, free, like professor level taught courses for anything, right? If you're a computer science student, you didn't even have to go to college. You could look up Harvard CS50. You could look up Stanford CS100 or whatever it is that those were. It's like you could learn CS, entire degrees level of coursework from top university, the top of top universities for free on YouTube for many years, right? Prior to that, textbooks were hugely available, libraries, right? You could get any random textbook and learn everything there is to know about math pretty much for as long as I've been alive at least. And so the actual like content being available, I don't think is a fair argument of like why this is the greatest thing, because I think it always comes down to motivation for these students, and the actual way that you go about learning. I've always been like fascinated by this idea of someone who's an autodidact, which is someone who is really good at wanting to learn things, right? That's always what I want to be, but I don't think I'm naturally that. I don't think many people are naturally that. I think it's actually the status quo is what people like to do the most. Like we all like to tend towards inertia, just keeping things the exact same. And so when it comes to, yes, ChatGPT, these online math platform, AI math platforms are infinitely patient, infinitely available, but the student is not, right? The student is very not wanting to learn these concepts. And we've tried to make the barrier of entry to learning these concepts as easy as possible, right? Because that library example, no kid's going to go to the library and pick up a math textbook unless like they're an autodidact and they absolutely love math. No one's going to go onto those, watch YouTube lectures for 40 hours unless they're really, really, really motivated to learn that thing. ChatGPT, no kid is going to go and learn math by themselves unless they're really, really motivated, right? So I think it always comes back to motivation. The barrier of entry has gotten down like tenfold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold maybe in each of these evolutions. Like this, like people are the same, right? People aren't going to want to learn these things. And so the more we change, the more we stay the same. The way AI has changed things, it's changed things. The barrier of entry is a lot lower, but people are the same.
That's so good. So what you're saying is that knowledge has been available always. Now, the access to knowledge, there have been some barriers. Like for example, I've always wanted to learn about investing.
Yeah.
And there's a book called Investors. No, Graham is Buffett. What's his
Warren
name?
Buffett.
Yeah, Warren Buffett's mentor. He wrote a book, and it's so hard.
It's
Yeah, nobody
so hard.
understands, man. Maybe like some investor at Wall Street might understand, but like for the pedestrian like myself who doesn't have a lot of investing knowledge, it makes no sense to me. And then being able to now understand what it's saying is pretty incredible. Like I did deep research and then I just said, okay, do deep research on this. And then I put it in the front of his working memory and I just chat with it and then just get clarity on what this guy is saying. There are times where it's like a little bit confusing, but now the ability to talk with it and to clarify my thinking has been incredible.
Yep.
And I do this for not just investing, but any topic that I'm very interested in, right? And at the same time, the barrier has been lowered. Therefore, now I can enter. And like you said, the human agency or the human desire, what is that word that you said? The love of learning? The arrogant, no, what? Anyways.
Autodidact.
Yeah,
Autodidact.
autodidact. Yeah. So I think the reason why I do that, I think is because I am an autodidact. Like I love learning stuff because it's just very interesting. Like my curiosity just is insatiable. I just want to keep learning. And I think it goes back to the question of human motivation, like you said. And so then at the same time, though, do you think that by lowering the barrier and access to knowledge, it then gives, so there's like, okay, if there is like a person if the barrier is here, there's just enough motivation for them to now enter.
I see.
So there's like, now you've layered, so there's like people with enough motivation, right? Yes, but because the barriers have been lowered, now these people are now entering because their level of motivation just matches that entry level. Do you think that?
This might not be the answer you want to hear. I don't.
Oh, okay.
Actually, because you know that scene from Wall-E, or it's pretty much the entire movie, Wall-E, where people are fat and like they don't walk and they just eat and watch movies the entire day. I think that is more akin to what people are like, or at least our natural tendencies. I don't think that people want to learn naturally. I think that people find things interesting, but to learn, there's a lot here as well. But yeah, I don't think that people are naturally autodidactic, especially when it comes to things like math, right? And especially the way that people approach math. So maybe the way that we define like learning math is important as well. Because oftentimes when we think about learning math, we'll think about it as, okay, I'm going to learn pre-algebra, and I'm going to learn algebra. I'm going to learn algebra 2, pre-calculus, calculus, multivariable calculus, blah, 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 blah. A very linear progression. But actually, I think what a lot of people do, say for investing, right? It's not actually that they want to learn the foundations of investing first, and then they learn all the building blocks in a linear fashion. Most times, what people do, they don't actually want to learn. They just they find something that's interesting to them, and then they go backwards. A lot of people want to think about learning a concept as going forwards, right? But oftentimes what people do is, oh, I found this, and this is kind of when I used to teach math, this was my approach. Let's start with wonder, right? Let's start with, hey, there's a great video back in the day that I loved that was a guy in like an hour lecture to like 5-year-olds. Let's learn calculus. Well, how do you teach calculus to 5-year-olds, right? And then it was basically this guy teaching them. One of the examples was, let's take a circle, or rather, let's take a triangle. N equals 3 sides, right? There are 3 sides to a triangle. 4 sides is a rectangle or quadrilateral. 5 is a pentagon, hexagon, septagon, on and on, right? What happens when that shape that keeps adding one side every single time reaches infinity? What shape do you get? And it's like the kids are like, oh, I don't know, it's like a millionagon or whatever, right? Eventually, a kid might reach, oh, it's a circle, right? And then that guy is, that's calculus. You just did calculus. And then it instills in this kid the sense of wonder and the sense of confidence of, oh, I'm not scared of math. Something that you used to say back in the day was like math helplessness, right? That kid no longer feels math helplessness because someone told them, I can do calculus. I did calculus when I was 5 years old, right? I learned what a limit was. As n approaches infinity, what shape does this become? That's a limit problem that you do in calculus pretty much. And so wonder and like confidence in yourself is the more natural progression, in my opinion, of how someone learns something. Of, I'm really interested in this concept, investing. It may be like, how do I make my money make money for me, right? Maybe that's the thing that you wanted to learn. You didn't want to learn investing. You wanted to learn how to make money. Or, maybe you had more, that's a very not generous way of saying that you want to learn those things. But yeah, I don't think people want to learn math. I think people want to learn interesting things about things, but like people don't have a tendency to want to like learn math in the traditional way that we think about that learning math concept.
Man, there's so many things that you shared. 35 minutes. Okay, so there's so many things that you shared that I was just like, man, that's so good. Preach, brother, preach. So I think you're right. I think often we think about, oh man, we think about math education in this forward linear manner. And it doesn't necessarily have to be. Like you gave the example of the person teaching infinity or limit to an infinity to a little a 3-year-old kid. And it gives a sense of wonder and curiosity. It's like, oh, like what does happen if these sides just keep going forever? And I think that personally for me is what makes math so intriguing.
Yeah.
That there is this metaphysical, like this thing that we can just continue to deduce based on truths and axioms.
Mm.
And it's like, okay, what happens if you get a number line? But what if you add another axis to that number line? Oh, what if you add another axis? Now you got 3D. And then what if you add time to that? And now you have 4D. And then you're just like, what is 5D, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I think makes math so beautiful and
Yeah.
intriguing. And then people find all sorts of ways to find applications to math.
Yeah.
You're like, okay,
In the real world.
Yeah, in the real world, which is crazy. Like the guys in the room just like just ruminating about these math theories, and then they realize, holy like macaroni, it applies in physics in a way that is just absolutely nuts. I'm actually going to be interviewing this PhD student in math, I think computer science PhD student or fellow, and he through mathematical modeling was able to increase some medical like machine that increased the prediction of this machine by like 90% or something, right? And I don't know how he came up with that formula, but it's just like, dude, that's just absolutely insane. And if we are able to bring out that curiosity, and I don't think there has been many instances. There's a couple of instances where I show something and then my students make the connection. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's crazy. How did that happen? I call it math magic, right?
Mm.
But I think that's how math should be learned, right? So then, okay, let's just say a parent is listening to this and they're like, man, I want to be able to instill that kind of awe and beauty because
Mm.
I think math is beautiful
Mm.
in my student or in my kid. And what, and using AI, I think, I don't know. I feel like AI can open this door to a certain extent because I don't think a parent knows how to do this, right? Using AI can potentially open this door to curiosity and intrigue with math. Because once you get that curiosity, it's like almost unstoppable. But what would, and then I do want to go back to the barrier question,
Mhm.
but I think we could table that for now.
Sure.
But yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, you can talk about other things before
No,
answering
no,
this
no,
question.
no
for
worries. I think there's like a couple parts to, it's not just wonder, it's also confidence, right? So maybe you're a person at home and you're like, math wonder. I don't know the first thing that makes math interesting. I hate math, right? Maybe you're that person. And it's really hard to teach an adult like the wonder of math again, because at some point along their math journey of learning math in grade school, probably they internalized, I am not a math person, right? And so that's like the confidence piece, right? So if you have no confidence in wanting to learn math or in thinking that you can do math, you're not going to care about the wonder, right? I think one of the things that you could do as a parent, you were talking about, was it 7:30 parent, 7:30 p.m. parent, is that you're not going to have the motivation to want to learn math at 7:30 after your day, right?
Hmm.
But what you can do is probably instill a lot of confidence in your student or in your child and the student who is going about this stuff, and you come home from 7:30, your kid is doing homework and they're like, I'm really stuck on this thing. And you can encourage them. Like, oh, like you got this. Let's sit down. Let's look at working on these math tutor platforms and then try and understand at least trains of logic that I might go through. Or, when a student gets something correct, it's, oh, good job. See, you can do it. And so I think there's two parts of it, of the wonder and the confidence. So if the kid is able to believe that they're confident in it, then it's like awesome. Because I think when a kid is like a second grader and they're doing like addition and subtraction tables at home, right? I don't know if they find wonder in the addition and subtraction tables, but it's important for them to learn those things, right? I think actually that when they're doing it, they feel good about themselves, right? They feel proud of themselves. Oh, you're so good at this. Oh, you're so smart. Oh, like you're so like, I don't know, you're a genius, right? When that kid hears those things about themselves, they're more likely to say, oh, I want to do it again. It's like a positive feedback loop for them. And so if you're able to do that kind of thing for your student, I think that might go a pretty long way if you can't figure out like the wonder, right? I think the golden ratio is really interesting, right? But what parent at home is going to be like, golden ratio, like, look at this thing, right? Like, I think that's harder to teach your student.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think perhaps wonder, I think I would want to continue that conversation about wonder and how we can cultivate that using AI. And yeah, go
I also think wonder happens. It's hard for the parent. I think teachers makes a lot more sense for teachers to be able to do that, or these math platforms, right? Because LLMs, AIs, they have nearly pretty much an infinite knowledge, right? If it can connect these math concepts to wonder concepts, I think that could go a long way.
Yeah. I think one thing that you bring up that I think is really important is confidence.
Mm.
Because one of our tagline for the podcast is I interview AI experts to help your kid use AI to love math. And I don't think you can ever come to love something if you suck at it.
Yeah.
And even if you might not necessarily have like intrinsic motivation for that thing, the prerequisite to having that intrinsic motivation, if it is ever to come, is your ability to do that thing well. And if you aren't doing it well and you just suck at it, I don't think you'll ever come to love that thing. So I think just that win itself, I think is really important.
Yeah.
And then, do you want to add anything to that?
Fun story. I'll try and make it quick.
Oh, by the way, you could keep talking. We could always edit stuff
Sure,
out.
sure.
That's fine. Yeah.
I had back when I was in high school, I had a student who came into Mathnasium. She was in college, couple years older than me, and she's like this very timid, shy girl. She walks in very unconfident in herself. She comes in and is like, "Oh, like I need help. I need math help." We're like, "Okay," and then she like pulls up her coursework and she's doing like arithmetic in college, right? She's doing like plus minus times division in college, and then it'd be really easy for a teacher to tell her like, "Oh, you should have learned this," and then that just crushes her confidence, right?
Oh yeah.
She's in college, but she's already coming like with like her like tail but tied between her feet or whatever, right? Like when she started to get a concept, because she was motivated because she wanted to pass college. When she started to get those concepts right, like her learning became a lot more rapid, and we were both very excited for each other. Oh my gosh, yes, you know how to do this like multiplication trick now. Let's move on to the next one, and then we'll be able to like do spaced repetition, recall that for her, and be like, oh, do you remember that thing we learned about? And because she has already a concept of like, oh yeah, I remember that because it was a positive moment for myself. It was great. I learned so much faster because of that. It's like an interesting thing of like concept or confidence for these people. It's like, it's not even just for kids, right? I think it's just like a human nature thing. When we think about these things as positive things, we're going to remember it. We're going to recall it a lot easier. Well,
Yeah. I think there's a couple of instances where I felt this similar thing. And this, for my example, it was actually using AI. I remember talking to a specific kid and I asked her like, "Hey, what has your math journey been like?" And she said that I don't I didn't learn anything since second grade. I just didn't learn anything from second grade. Number one, that broke my heart. And the second of all, I was like, okay. And then we were learning about triangle similarity, and we put it into AI, and she was using it, right? And first time it was a little bit challenging because the text wasn't working very well, so on and so forth. But she kept talking to it. I was like, no, keep talking to it. Don't give up. Keep talking to it. And then she was able to solve the problem using AI. And the look on her face when she solved that was priceless. And there was like this feedback thing as well, where like it gives grade to the student. It kind of explains the benefit of the reasoning, so on and so forth. And then it graded the student's work. And the first time I think it was a C, and then it was a B, and then it was an A, kept iterating on the work, which I think is very, very important. And the kid did that. And then each time, it's like I felt more and more confident. And by the time that the student got the A, like I said, just the look on their face and just that pride that they have, I think that it made a permanent like
yeah.
impression on her that I can do this.
And imagine if there's a teacher there along with her being, you're amazing.
Yeah.
Right. And it like doubles that thing. And so like, the reason I say that, it goes back to the thing that you asked me earlier about like, what's the parent's role in this? Like, if we can assume that the AIs are going to be infinitely smart and it's just going to be like getting smarter and smarter and smarter, let's leave the content part of it, the wonder. It's like, let's leave those interesting wonder pieces and like concept explanations to these really smart tools, and let's take charge of those human moments, right? Of, oh, this kid is really proud of themselves. Like, imagine a teacher immediately right after that tells them, oh, like, you should have learned that already. That moment's gone for them, right? But the teacher tells them, oh, like, you got it. Good job. You worked so hard for this. It's like doubly so.
I love that you call that out, because I think that's what the kids need to hear is when the kid, like you said, number one, give the content to the AI. And there are specific ways I think we have to scaffold for that piece.
Yeah.
And at the same time, if it is being scaffolded correctly, give it to the AI. And then the parent role in this world of AI and now with math education is for you to encourage and to see your kid in their struggle and their conquer. And when they conquer this math problem, you have to be there. Parents, listen to this here. You have to be there to say, hey, number one, how was that? Tell me your experience and process that experience with them. And then tell them, look them in the eye and say, hey, I'm so proud of you. And when I was talking to that girl, I think it was very important for me to say, hey, tell me about this experience. How was it? And they had a chance to say, hey, this part was challenging. This part was challenging. And I said, hey, did you feel like giving up? And they said, honestly, yeah. And you were there though, Mr. Kim. And you continued to push me and said, hey, it's okay. You could push through this. And you just being there, encouraging me, allowed me to get that hurdle, over that hurdle of wanting to give up. And I didn't. And now look what happened. And then for the kid to experience that entire process, and then an adult who they respect go and says, hey, I'm proud of you. It means the world. And it changes their math story.
You can we're gonna go down a rabbit hole real quick with this one.
No, go for it.
But you can cut it off if you want.
Yeah.
There's a really interesting thing that I've been interested in regarding like human psychology and how I don't mean so there's this concept with trauma victims, people who go through trauma, and I don't mean to compare or say that it's anything similar to like learning math to like trauma incidents, but the psychology that we can draw from this and those moments is really interesting of people who go through trauma. Oftentimes when they're older and they go through some type of PTSD, recalling of those events, they'll think about the event, but then for many of the people that like these studies have shown is that the event can be like restored in a way. That traumatic event can be restored by the response of the family that they go back to or the people that they go back to. Let's say something traumatic happens to you and then you go to a police officer and they're like, they brush it off and then they never address it. It's like, that's going to deepen that wound. But if they like are really with you and they walk you through it and they solve that problem for you, or like they solve the case of that, like that can restore a lot. A lot of times people go through trauma, go to families, and then the families, because they themselves do not know how to process it, they shut down on the person who went through the trauma as well. And that like moment becomes so much more worse for them. And it's like a really interestingly studied like human psychology thing. And again, they're so completely different of those trauma cases and people who learn math. But when we actually think about like when people say I'm not a math person, there's a lot of it is because I hate to use the word trauma with it. It's not the same level of trauma. Baggage with it. Yeah. There's so much baggage with it of like, oh, I had a hard time with math. And then they're called stupid for it. Right. When that moment of incident occurs and it's met with a negative feedback, oftentimes that becomes deeply internalized. But when it's met with a positive feedback or a, hey, you can do it, oftentimes those moments can be restored. And like, it's interesting to draw, like, this is like learning science, pedagogy, like what people go to like master's and PhD programs for in adjacent fields, but drawn very closely to a math learning type of experience.
Yeah, I don't know how the phrasing goes. It goes something like the way that you heal your inner child, or the way that you take care of your inner child is, or the way that you heal from pain, from relationship, is being in a healthy relationship of sorts.
Sure.
Right? It's like you have pain and hurt from whoever the person is. But really, I don't know if there's like a study, but it only takes like 2 or 3 people that rewrites that narrative for you. And that's why I think teachers and these people, certain very key people like coaches, so on and so forth, right? Parents, right? Have such a pivotal role to play because they can rewrite the story for their kids. And like you said, I don't know if it's necessarily trauma, but math anxiety is real. And I'm sure there's been studies. I don't know the actual studies, but I've heard of math anxiety. I know math helplessness, at least on a qualitative level, because I've seen my students and where they come from, I've heard their math stories, is actually it's real. And so yeah, to be able to rewrite that for students, I think is really important. And I don't think that rewriting can ever, maybe not ever, because there are times when people feel emotionally supported by AI. And at the same time, I'm not sure that kind of seeing like that a teacher can do or a parent can do, saying, I'm proud of you.
Yep.
That seems like it's irreplaceable. It cannot be done by AI.
Yeah, I agree. And that's kind of the very beginning of what I talked about of if we can give these AIs for my job enough context of hey, it can do the like mundane parts of the work, but it can supercharge the human, right? It's like here as well, like let's not take the human moments out of it. A lot of people on the other side's arguments against AI is that like, oh, you're trying to replace humans. It's like actually, I think that AI could really, really supercharge people, but it really depends on what we actually think that the humans' strengths are. Like the teaching, a lot of teaching, sure, we could do like curriculum design and really strong pedagogy, but a lot of it like is in the human moments, not in the actual like delivery of content. Like when I was a student doing the peer-to-peer tutoring of like high school students to high school students, people loved learning. Like there are some people who really loved learning math concepts from me because I explained it to them in a way that made sense to them. I had no masters in education and pedagogy, but like they understood it because a very human to human moment, right?
I do think that it's important for us to address this idea of leaving the tutoring to the AI, right? Because I think that's very contentious. I think, well, I don't know. You might be more aware of this. I would imagine that it would be very contentious because it would absolutely disrupt so much of how math education has ever been done and now are being seen. So that's another question that I have for you. But yeah, if that is the case, that we are able to offload a lot of that tutoring to the AI, which I think we can. If we can do that, then it gives the teacher space. It gives the human the space, the mental space. And parents listening to this, you are at the kitchen table at 7:45 p.m. and you are frustrated and your kid is crying, right? But if you can offload that work of tutoring where you yourself probably are lost tutoring your kid, if you can offload that to AI, and then now you have the mental and emotional space to sit down with your kid and to encourage them and say, hey, we can push through this. Hey, you got this. And just being that person to gently push them and encourage them and process and then say, I'm proud of you. Like that, I feel like is the parent role now in the age of AI, especially with helping your kids potentially love math in the future.
Yeah, yeah. It makes sure like recall it's like professional athletes, like NBA players have coaches. Like Steph Curry has a shooting coach. He's the best shooter in the world. That guy's nowhere near as good of a shooter as he is. But the guy being there and like facilitating and being the one who pushes Steph Curry to be able to like work on this, it's like, oh, it's really interesting that the best shooter in the world has a shooting coach, right?
Oh, that's very interesting.
He's nowhere near as good of a shooter as Steph Curry is. Just think about the parallel to like math. Hey, the AI is the best math tutor in the world, or at least the smartest one. Maybe not best, smartest. It knows the most knowledge in the world, right? But the parent might not know as much math as the tutor. Definitely help the student still, facilitating, encouraging, being the human to human moments, right? Steph could go into the gym and chuck up like 5,000 shots in a day, like 1,000, 2,000 shots in a day. Having the coach there facilitating is really important.
Oh, that's very interesting. That Stephen Curry, which I don't really know a lot about him, but he's the best shooter in the world. But the best shooter in the world has a coach.
At least I've heard. I don't know him personally, right?
Well.
But like a lot of professional athletes have like skills coaches at least.
Sure. Wow, that's very interesting. So that yes, given that hypothetically that Stephen or what's his name?
Steph.
Stephen. Oh my, people are gonna hate me not knowing his name. Stephen Curry. Stephen Curry. Stephen Curry.
Steph.
Okay, Stephen Curry. As a shooting coach, even though the shooting coach might not necessarily know and execute on the skill as well as Stephen Curry does, still is valuable because that motivation piece, that human connection piece, that even like maybe from the third perspective, potentially, I'm sure he could like arrange certain things, right? And so that's very, very interesting. So if I could just dig into a little bit more about, can AI tutor someone?
Yeah.
I have an initial stance that it can. And I think it fully can and do it better than any human can at this point. And that itself, what I just shared is like, holy, and that shifts. And then as a math teacher, that shifts so much for us. So much of what, if AI can do what you can do, it's now time to rethink what you do now.
Yeah.
Because if AI can do it, then you got to think of what is the value proposition that you have now as a human being.
Yep.
It's no longer tutoring, but can AI tutor is in itself is pretty contentious. What is your perspective on it?
I think AI could math. AI could math. I think AI could tutor. I think I think you don't even need to use the word AI. I think it's just like a nice buzzword. I think someone can learn completely by themselves these concepts, and AI could be a strong helper in being able to facilitate those experiences. Yes. Are you familiar with synthesis tutor?
Yeah.
Synthesis tutor is a really interesting one. I see their testimonial videos a lot. Synthesis tutor, if you're at home, it's a really interesting company. I believe they started from SpaceX. There are a lot of people who were in like a SpaceX campus. They had kids needed to learn, so they built a school at SpaceX. And then people from that spun off Synthesis tutor, which is pretty much SpaceX engineers building math tutor or early childhood tutoring. And early childhood tutoring, it's a lot less about content, like knowing really high level content, as opposed to being really good of like encouraging students, right? And making concepts engaging with students. And so it's not like the kids, like fourth graders, fifth graders using synthesis are talking to like a ChatGPT interface. They have a really interesting, engaging experience, but there's an AI that's a part of it. So yeah, kids entirely by themselves on a computer could learn math. There's a lot that I think beyond just AI can teach the students. The actual engagement of the platform itself matters a lot, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think synthesis, what I've seen so far is pretty, I think it's very intuitive and I think very much aligns with how early childhood development, from what I know, I don't know too much, but my understanding of it, and how math truly is internalized.
Yeah.
So it's not just numbers, it's not formulas, it's visually being able to see
Yes.
circles and what happens if you now have another
Exactly.
group of circles. And if you look at fractions, you have 8 and divided into 2, now you have 4 groups, and then you being able to manipulate these circles to be able to, and then if there's like one left over, what happens that? Okay, that's what a remainder is. So I think early childhood math is very visual.
Mhm.
And I think it does it does a really good job with that right there.
Yeah.
So then I guess my question then is to you is, can AI tutor better than a human tutor?
AI tutor AI tutor better than a human tutor.
Can AI tutor kids better than a human tutor kids?
Also a loaded question. I don't like taking strong stances because there's so much so many variables. It's not even the hate. I just don't think that people, when they take strong stances, are necessarily correct. But maybe that means that, I don't know, I just don't understand it deeply enough. I think that the average human tutor is not very good. But yes, the average AI tutor could be better than human tutors. The best human tutor any day of the week, I think, will be better than the AI tutor.
Interesting. What is your reasoning for that?
Because pretty much everything we're talking about of like the best human tutors are able to understand the person. And then they might be able to leverage an AI tutor alongside. Like, again, it's to supercharge the person. The AI tutor, it's always going to have an upper limit of the human connection. It can never do that. The average human tutor, I don't think is very good, in my opinion, because they don't know how to. The average human tutor, honestly, is some kid working a part-time job, trying to make whatever minimum wages now to buy some on like nice things in their life. That's the average. The best of the best, I think, yeah, for sure. Way better.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Okay. So there is that human connection, which, by the way, I know I took a strong stance. I was like, I think it can. I'm not sure yet. Okay. I'm exploring this question with you.
It's a thesis.
It
You
is a
believe
thesis.
it can.
I believe that it can. So let's take away let's just take away the human connection and just think about pure utility. So there's a kid who is very motivated. Is that autodidactic?
Autodidact.
Autodidact. He's an autodidact and just wants to learn and then just like going at it. And so we're talking purely utility.
Okay.
This kid doesn't even need human connection. This kid's, I don't care about
Sure,
you as
okay.
a person. I just care
AI
about
is better.
the content.
AI is better for that.
Really? Tell
I
me
think.
more why.
Because that person is naturally curious and they can use AI because AI is going to have a larger context than any person does. Right? When it comes to knowledge and content and like knowing things, AI is infinitely smarter than a person.
Oh.
And so if the person is able to learn and has the confidence and has the wonder and like curiosity, then yeah, AI makes it so you can learn anything you want, right?
Wow. Are you sure?
My thesis
Your thesis. Okay.
is that for sure. Because I think AI is better for an autodidactic individual because when you look at the highest performers in the world when it comes to different concepts, like any like type of discipline, but specifically in math, there's a lot of companies who their entire thesis is like, we are not going to cater to the average person learning math. We're going to cater to the top level person learning math. And those companies, I'm talking Math Academy, I'm talking Math Dash, if anyone is out there, is a math competition software. Chess.com is like that for math. Math Academy, that Alpha Schools, the kids learn because they're like wanting to learn. There's no human in the loop on those things. But those concepts that they're working on are like top 1% problems. If they're naturally curious, which those people are, you look at Math Dash. Math Dash is this where they're doing like math counts, Math Olympiad, like even beyond Math Olympiad at like college level problems, and like they're competing against each other for ELO ranking against one another. ELO is like a number that you use to rank against one another. It's like a score that you have. Okay. Like if I'm really good at math, maybe I'm like a 2100. If someone's like a little worse than me, maybe they're like 1600.
Oh, it's like chess ranking.
Chess ranking, like grandmaster, whatever, blah, blah, blah. They're doing it all by themselves. They don't have someone in the loop for them. And imagine AI is the thing that's there to like better. How many people in the world are going to have Math Olympiad knowledge? Very few. AI will always have it. And eventually, if we're going to talk like artificial general intelligence, then the theory is that it's going to learn on its own. So it's AI because it has access to so much more data than any individual does. They're going to be able to make like connections faster than anybody does. The AI is going to learn new concepts faster than people. So in that case, for sure, it blows out the person out of the water, right? Because it learns faster than people. So if the person is naturally motivated and it has a infinitely knowledgeable, source to draw that from, I think 100% AI.
I am curious as to, because you mentioned some specific data that point to the fact that you don't really necessarily need a human in the loop, which parents, I'm sorry, we're talking about this, but it's, I'm just so curious as to what about, okay, so what you mentioned was that AI has infinite knowledge, at least all the knowledge of the internet and maybe even more. And because it has infinite knowledge and there are people there's not a lot of people in this world who has that like math Olympiad knowledge, right? So then let me ask you this. Let's just say that there was a human being who he's the best Olympiad knowledge guy, okay? And then you had a kid with AI. And this math Olympiad guy doesn't have AI. Which kid, and they have the same level, this kid has the same level, and they're both wanting to learn. Which one would do better?
Better in what?
Just getting the higher ELO score.
Depends on the student. The average student, they'll still not do as well as the smartest guy. Yeah. because the average student isn't naturally curious and wants to learn.
So let's just say these two guys are equally naturally wants to learn. They just want to learn,
Oh, okay.
learn. So they're, yeah. So AI math, human math.
So
who's the
if we're
Olympiad?
talking like
This is a completely
into
theoretical.
infinity and like time is infinity and like the rate of learning and stuff, then the person with AI. Yeah, if the other person doesn't have access
Yeah.
to further knowledge,
Yeah.
further context,
Yeah.
and is only on their own, then yeah, I think the AI would. This is also assuming that the AI gets better.
Yeah.
Right. My assumption is that AI, if it does reach artificial general intelligence, which basically means that it's learning upon itself and it can discover new concepts, then yeah, the person with, if they're equally motivated, equally ambitious,
Because it can learn.
yeah, because it has
Itself.
access to a
Okay.
more.
And if it was not AGI, but just AI right now, you would still say that AI would still win. The kid with AI would still win.
Yeah, probably.
How come?
I think that they could. There's AI knows a lot. I think AI knows a lot. It's like saying some kid in the middle of nowhere who has no opportunity at all, but he's like the highest IQ, right? Versus that same person in the middle of Los Angeles who has access to every single like opportunity in the world. Like the person with opportunity wins. Because they're not going to be the kid in the middle of nowhere, in my opinion, doesn't have the resources to learn those new things.
I see.
There's no inputs to that person,
Sure.
assuming they're naturally both ambitious and curious.
Sure. Wow. So it's like this, it's basically giving raw power
Yeah.
to, so that's why I think.
Yeah, it's like a supercomputer. You got supercomputers, one of them has a power supply, one of them doesn't.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the way I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. So I think it all, like we're talking about, like every time I talk about it, it always comes down to human, like human motivation and agency.
Yeah.
It's like, do you want it?
Yeah.
Just ask your kids, do you want this? Do you not want this? No, I'm just kidding. But it really just comes down to.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we can continue. We can wrap this up here. So I'm going to ask you the kitchen table question.
Okay.
Imagine that there's a parent, 7:45 p.m. at the kitchen table. The kid's crying, super frustrated. And you have an opportunity to teleport there and pull the parent aside and say X. What would you tell the parent? And maybe specifically also, how would you guide the parent to use the AI to help the kid with their math homework?
A lot there. My natural tendency, again, I think there's a lot more nuance. You have to understand all the specifics of the situation. I think generally a nice thing to do would be if your kid is stuck and really frustrated on a problem, the first thing to do is like, no one frustrated is going to like be motivated to learn. So first, let's get the student back to a place where they are open to receiving or like open to working again. Once the student is open to working again, instill the student with a confidence of, oh no, you can do this, and a patience to ask, let's try and understand it, right? Because oftentimes what kids run into the problem with is that like they run into a dead end and they don't know the right question to ask about, they don't know what they don't know, right? They don't know the right question to ask about what they are having a hard time understanding. And so the parent needs to be the one to like break it down. It's like, hey, I'm having a really hard time with systems of equations, right? It's like I have multiple problems, or actually, let's say a simpler one of like solving linear equations, x plus 2 equals 6, right? You got to move the 2 to the other side, you got x equals 4, something like that. But the kid like has no idea like, well, how do I move the 2? Like I don't get what like moving 2 means, right? Because the kid doesn't understand like that concept. And so like it's on the parent then to, or the parent can help. It's not on the parent. Parent can help in that moment to instill confidence. You can do this. Let's have patience and be able to ask again the thing. I don't understand. Let's point out at the specific problem, right? Because oftentimes when the kid is really upset, they're going to be like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I just don't get it. But you don't get it usually because like one or two things that's misplaced in your head. The parent has to kind of figure out what those actual blockers are, right? It's a long-winded because it is a kind of complex situation, but it's a long-winded answer to make sure they're ready to learn, make sure they are confident and not like completely helpless, and then instill the patience within them to say, okay, let's figure out this specific thing. You're not dumb. You just have a thing that doesn't make sense, but it's your job to figure out what that one thing is.
So I love that. A kid who is frustrated cannot learn. So you need to take a step back, do some breathing exercises, go for a walk,
Yeah.
go get ice cream, I don't know, and then come back and then tackle the question again. Now, you said that solving linear equations, there's got to be just one thing that is going to unblock them. What advice or prompting, maybe even, what prompt would you advise the parent to put into chat or AI to maybe help the kid get unstuck?
Yeah, this is where understanding what like AIs is really helpful, because oftentimes when someone goes about a problem on an AI, it's like telling the AI x plus 2 equals 6. And then you get a really, really long answer from the AI. And it's talking about a lot of different things at once, actually. And then a lot of students will actually look at that. They won't read everything. They'll look for certain parts that they understand, and then they'll move on. Like, you kind of have to take the time to read the parts and then say, this part, I don't understand what this part means. And then if you highlight that one thing with the AI, it actually does a really good job of that, right? We try to treat these AIs like they're
Mind readers.
mind readers. They understand all of our assumptions. It understands none of your assumptions. Assume that this is the smartest thing in the world and the dumbest thing in the world. It's the smartest thing because it has access to all the information. It can be absolutely right 100% of the time. But if you give it the wrong thing, it's going to be wrong every time. So you have to be very explicit with the things that you're giving it. It's a hard question. You kind of have to figure out exactly what is the missing like link.
Sure.
That.
I really like that. If you give a question, maybe upload it using, I don't know, a picture or something, it's going to pump out some stuff. And as you're reading, maybe with your kid, you say, I don't get this part. And then just get this part, copy and paste it, or take a screenshot of that part, put it into AI again and say, just explain this part. I think that's a really good strategy.
Yeah, it's really good at that specifically. And it gets really creative, actually. If like you didn't understand it the first time, you have to be very specific. I used to do a little bit of research on AI at like a university, and they would talk about when they would teach AI proficiency pretty much in schools. It's like back in my day, we would learn how to use computers. Computer proficiency, typing proficiency is the same thing, but for AI, right? How do you use the AI? And one of their big things was you have to be the boss of it. You have to tell it exactly what to do, right? And be very explicit of there's that one specific thing that I do not understand because you said it this way. I don't understand because I see it this way, and do that bridging. Most kids will not do that. Most kids' responses to the AIs are going to be, I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't
IDK.
understand.
Yeah.
Over and over.
For sure. Yeah. I think that being very specific with what you're asking is going to be really important. And the type of questions that you ask is going to be very important. And also the context that you provide is also really important. And yeah, so if I would love to ask more advice on like what kind of specific things to ask in terms of for the parent to help their kid with their math. But I think we could maybe do another episode next time when you're available. And before, if I can just have a moment of just being able to speak, I did create an app called Someta that does all of the stuff that Mark is talking about, where you don't have to prompt it perfectly, where it takes a lot of that prompting work out of you, so that not out of you, but off of you, so that you can just focus on helping your kid, encouraging them. And a lot of the AI can do the tutoring and the work. So if you're interested, click on the link below, and it is going to be something that I think would be worthwhile for you to check out. But honestly, I just want to say thank you so much. Any last word of hope and courage, and not courage, but hope, and a word of encouragement as we end this podcast?
Word of encouragement, I'm assuming that the type of people who would be interested in your type of platform, there are people who are might be having a harder time with math, I would assume. And so for those individuals, yeah, like let's not treat it like something's wrong with you. Let's treat it as something that you can figure it out. I believe anybody can do anything if they put their mind to it. My favorite quote, I've been like on some personal things I've been working on. I use this quote in like every single thing that I do. It's Steve Jobs he doesn't say this part, but there's a big unlock. His quote is basically believing that this world, or understanding that this world, this life that you live in, is built by people no smarter than you and I, right? And this is Steve Jobs talking. I add the little part before it first. There's a big unlock that happens. There's a big unlock that happens when you understand that this life is built by people no smarter than you and I. So if you really internalize that, yeah, you can figure out math. There's nothing wrong with you. You for sure figure it out. It's like being able to ask the right questions, being able to have the confidence, the patience to be able to work through those things. There's a whole nother podcast to be had about should learning be hard or easy? Should it be hard to learn things? My opinion is that, yeah, it should be a little bit hard to learn things because that's where the actual learning moments happen, in the rush, the friction. So if that is a true assumption that learning happens in the friction, then the things that we need to like the axioms that we need to like live by are that we need to be patient. We need to be confident. We need to believe that we can actually do it. So,
Wow. Thank you for that quote. You said that what was it? Something unlocks?
there's a big unlock.
Okay. There's a big unlock when you come to the realization that this world is created by people who are no smarter than you. Wow. That's a great quote for us to end on. And so just want to say thank you so much for your time, Mark, and your expertise and your insights. I truly enjoyed the conversation, and I hope those of you who are listening, I hope you found it interesting as well. And thank you once again. This is the AI Math Guy podcast. I appreciate you listening and tuning in. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.